Welcome to Fruiting Body Podcast. I'm your host, Brendan O'Neill, and today we have an amazing episode with Tai Emery. She is with the LFC and the LFL, correct?
Correct.
Boom, got it. Okay, so we're going to kick this off real quick. Hit that intro, Talise. One quick thing, we found an amazing feature on YouTube. You should check this out. If you're watching this video and you click on any time place on the video itself, click on the description and chapters will appear. From these chapters, you can decide what part of the podcast you would like to watch. Hope you enjoy. We explained this before you were coming on the podcast. And again, thank you, Tai, for joining us today. The Fruiting Body Podcast, it's about the journey of your life and to show your followers a different side to you outside that digital face we talked about.
Yeah.
So let's kick this off right from the beginning and let's go right back and start at your childhood. Where did you grow up? And let's speak a little bit about that.
Okay, so my name's Tai. I originated in Gladstone, Central Queensland. So mum's Australian. My dad is native Māori, which is New Zealand. It was a big thing for the New Zealand side of the family to have us born in Australia. I can't go into that because I don't really understand. I guess maybe that's for natives to be like, they made it out. I don't know. I don't know at that side. So I grew up there, 4680. I went to primary school, was school captain, went to high school at Talua. I was a house captain and student exec. So I was a straight A student as well. I went through 2 adopted homes. My family is split when I think we were about 8. I brought my sister up my entire life.
So you when your family split, you kind of went to I'm not sure how you label that in Australia, but it's kind of like what's the word? It's what do you mean by adopted homes?
We call it going into the system with
into the
Centrelink.
system. Okay, that's probably the same, and they say in Canada and the US.
Yeah.
So at this point, and if we don't have to get too deep or touch upon that, that's up to you. But kind of how did that process work, and how did that build you to the person you are today?
Honestly, I think it really just taught me to stand on my own 2 feet. It taught me to hustle, and I really had to work for everything my whole life. Just to get through high school, I had 2 jobs. I worked at Golden Chicken and I packed shelves at night. So I worked until 2 a.m. Then I'd go ride my bike home, go to sleep, wake up at 8, go to school, do it all over again.
Well, it seems you're wearing many hats. So we could probably talk here for 6 hours, but we won't because anyway.
I guess I wanted to just say that just so that other kids who are born into, I guess, disadvantaged homes and are also put into the system or, sleeping on their friends' couches in primary school or high school. I guess I more just wanted to start with that just so that they could understand where they can end up as well, So at this age, you're 8 years old with your sister kind of going through the system. Is your younger sister? I was 8 when it first began, and then by the age of 15 or 14, I think that's when I went into my first home with the Wipers, and then my second home with the Connolly family, and this was all in my hometown, so I was really lucky.
Okay, so you're staying with the proper family. Now,
yeah,
are there other children like yourself in these homes as well, or is it just you and your sister?
No, because my sister went to America, so she went over to America with, I guess, family over there, and I was excelling at school. So for me, that at that point, I'd finished sort of doing my sport. I was a little athletics. What do you call it? Like I was a sprinter. Always played football, and then I really just decided, okay, studies is going to be how I get out of here, like get out of this situation. So I just really studied, and when I was getting straight A's, I didn't want to go into a different curriculum. And I know that sounds so silly, but that's the way that I thought back then. I wanted to stay in, do school in my hometown and finish up.
And what were you excelling at specifically? Was it the maths, the sciences? And maybe this is kind of a two-part question. Like, as you're excelling in let's say the sciences, what were your dreams and aspirations? What did you want to become when you grew up?
I wanted to get into the Air Force.
Okay.
I really wanted to go into the Air Force and serve my country and make a difference.
And did you do that?
No. Well, eventually I ended up getting out of high school and I started to get into modeling. So I started modeling with Ralph magazine and Zoo magazine. And I never thought, that was sort of possible. This is before Instagram days too. So
this is when you're like 17, 18.
18, 19, that sort of age. And that meant not being able to model anymore. So for me, I thought, no, this is something that, I guess not everyone sort of dreams of doing, but it was something that not everyone gets to do. And I understood that part of the experience. So I used all of my grades and I was actually one of the first female electricians to be an apprentice at Queensland Rail. And I kind of got my leg up in getting into the male-dominated industry by using that first female step. It was when the government was really pushing, hey, like we need diversity. And I kind of just like really used that to my advantage while still being at a disadvantage.
How did that all connect? Like initially, how did you get into modeling? And we'll just take a step back because I think there is a disconnect there. Modeling to electrician. So
it's a balance of femininity and masculinity.
How did that happen? Like did someone push you into the modeling? Did you find it on your own?
I think it was one of my best friends at the time. There was just a zoo calendar competition and it was, and just like one of the little nightclubs, and if you won there, you got to go to the Gold Coast and you were with every girl from every state and everyone was challenging to get on, be like one of the months for the first ever zoo calendar weekly. So she really pushed me into doing that. She was actually the first girl to get me to wear eyeliner and mascara because I just never really thought about that stuff. I was always my head was either in the clouds or working really hard. So I just never focused on those things. So she really pushed me and said that I could do it. And I just remember being like, well, let's give it a go.
And then how... You're doing the modeling for a couple of years before this connects into becoming an electrician. Because again, for electrician, you probably need to study for a few years. Like you have to do an apprenticeship, and it's not something you can just pick up overnight.
Well, it's a 4-year. It's a 4-year apprenticeship, and I kind of did it at the same time. So I never took jobs where it meant taking away from Tate, like from the actual theory studies. But when it came while we're on site, I could always be away for 1 or 2 days. So I'd be traveling to either the Gold Coast, Townsville, Sydney, Melbourne, like wherever they were going to fly me to for these shoots. And really I'm so glad that I was an apprentice electrician at the same time as when I was getting my leg in the magazine world, because it really helped me to keep this balance. Like I could be sitting there getting lush and everybody loving me and wearing these clothes that were specifically designed for my body type in this shoot. And then the next day, you bet your bottom dollar I'm digging trenches and crawling through ceilings with like rat hair and just everything known to man in these ceilings with dust from 1972. So I think getting to really be able to do the both like kept me super humble and kept like that reality check as well. I never was super diva-y.
But did you have family members that I used to live in Australia? I used to live on the Gold Coast for about a year.
Oh yeah,
I was studying there at the time. So if I remember the word, you're a tradie.
Yeah, I'm a tradie.
There we go.
I'm a tradie.
Got it.
I'm a lecky tradie.
There's some lingo. I don't know what lecky means. I guess electrician tradie. And you're wearing the orange suits. And
I was.
Yeah. No, I remember in Australia, he's a tradie, and usually their parents were tradies, and specifically in the area I was living in Southport. But my question more is, did you have family that were tradies, or like how did that connect to you becoming an electrician? Why did you decide that?
I just really liked science, and I saw it as a way of being able to be the first female like in that sort of wave. And I'm someone who can work really, really hard, and I was also able to use my brain a lot as well. I also saw it as a way that they would be paying me to study, rather than I went through adopted homes. There's no way that I was just going to be able to bring up a heap of money to go to university. So for me, I found it as a way where I was like, hold on a minute, you guys are going to pay me to learn how to do this. And then you're going to pay me minimum $120K. like minimum when I finished. I was like, okay, you got me in. Which is at least good for, you know.
And it's, I mean, right out of, you know, at a young age, you're probably doing this, what, now around 20, 21? You're not
from 18 on.
18 on.
Yeah.
And the money's decent.
Money's decent.
Most people that, like, say if you went to school for business and you get out of university, I mean, maybe you're making 50K, right?
Maybe they're making 50K and then still paying back their tuition fees. But, you know, I grew up in a tradie town. We had the gas seam pipeline, power stations, coal, aluminium refinery. We've got the largest port in the Southern Hemisphere. So obviously that was the town that I grew up in. So for me, I just always remember thinking, how can I never be stuck in this situation? And it was, I need to make man money. I need to make man money and then I'm going to be okay. So to me, man money was becoming a tradie. So that's really where that sort of thought process came from, so for me to just go.
What's your motivation there? Is your motivation the freedom or the money, or are you looking for success? Is it all freedom?
All three, probably. I think proving to myself that I can do it, challenging myself, knowing that I can do it, but there's always a stigma, you know. Hell, there was a million jobs where I remember being like 1 week out from finishing my apprenticeship and this old guy comes in and is like, oh yeah, good to see a female in. You're like, yeah, righto, mate. Like, heard it a million times and it's like, oh, you should really stick it out. This will be good for you. And I'm like, yeah, because I didn't just stick it out for the last 4 years to just give it up and not become qualified. And obviously for me, I understand that it was just breaking a lot of old man's like everything. This was their belief system.
Their perception of what a female should be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think I really loved being able to break that mold, as well as knowing that I had all the tools inside me to be able to do those things, whether it was going for modeling shoots and then the next day being able to run jobs and you know, do these jobs out of the mines. And so maybe it was just breaking stereotypes. Maybe it was, just figuring out myself to have that freedom of never being stuck and, being able to do something that was for the first as well.
And do you think this perception still exists nowadays? Because, again, this is probably, well, not that long ago. I mean, obviously you're not that old. But, I mean, is that perception starting to fade away in that industry, or is it still there?
I would like to say that it's changing, and it definitely has. But you still need to believe, like, I was still one of the first. I was like the first female electrical contractor of Australia. I was the first female in the world and the youngest thermographer, you know. So if I'm the first, like, we haven't had that many years. I even remember on one job meeting one of the first 7 women who got given an apprenticeship. And she said that out of those 7, only I think 2 fully qualified. The rest got husbands, had babies, and it was just, you know, that era of life where they could never get back into it. And so for her, like, she had streaming tears, just like looking at me going, you know, I helped make that change. And I remember looking at her just having like a significant moment and being like, yeah, you did. Thank you. Like, thank you for doing one thing that I have no doubt was as hard as anything, because I know how difficult it was for me every day being on site, and every day people just, red is the active, black is the neutral, and you're like,
yeah, I know.
I get it.
But is there a support group or an association specifically for women tradies that you guys can kind of help each other out?
I think there is now. At the time, there wasn't. I was a part of the apprentice, what is it? I was about to say Illuminati.
We'll get into conspiracy theories later.
Beep.
Yeah, that's okay. And our entire YouTube account has been deleted. Damn it.
Excellent. Yeah. If there's one thing I can do, it's make trouble.
Shadow ban my entire account. All right, and we're closed.
No, I was like on apprenticeship leagues, for the labor. What is it, like the labor parties?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually studied that. I did some industrial relations stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I understand.
Get me? So I was like a part of that, and I was always
the union.
Yeah, the union. Yeah. So I was in the union. I was the first apprentice who was allowed at the union meetings, just so that I could understand them. And then obviously going in and being a part of like the apprentice unions, I really just felt that even though I didn't want to do it, I always have an opinion on something if I'm passionate about it. And so I felt like maybe it was more my duty. Even if I don't want to do something, I still feel like a sense of responsibility that, well, maybe my voice should be heard, and maybe people need to understand these experiences as a female in this world. And obviously, like, I don't think being an electrician is cut out for every female. Like, I don't. And I hate to say that it'd be a special female.
Well, I mean, you need to wake up in the
hire
morning and have the passion for the job. Otherwise,
Of
how are you going to
course.
do it, right?
Well, that's for anything, really.
Yeah.
You could be making just cups of coffee, and if you're not passionate about it, eventually people are going to be like, look, mate, your coffee tastes like dirt.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to one of your podcasts, I believe you did on the LFC podcast.
Yeah.
Again, you have so much content out there, I can't listen to it all. But I just went through it just to get an idea about yourself. And you said everything you do, you give 100%. Has there ever been something you've never given 100%? Or do you also believe in the concept of, I'll give it a try, and if I don't like it, I will give that up? And so a lot of people of your fans, they know what you've been successful at, but what have you not been successful at?
Sugar. In my head, I'm probably like blocked all those things out. Like, no, we won't talk about that. I don't know. I never really know even what I like. So I guess through everything, it's more just a journey of like figuring out your own self-expression. The electrician thing I fell into more just because, you know, I didn't come from the best upbringing, and I wanted to just be able to look after myself, and I never wanted to rely on people. And then I knew I worked hard, and I knew I had all these tools so I could do it. Modeling, I fell into it, and I knew it. I was like, you know what? I can do it. And then kind of just fell into that as well. And then outside of that, I really just stayed busy within, I guess I've always stayed in those subjects, but somehow they've kind of branched off, but I've still kind of, I guess, stayed within, I guess, my own elements.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's not an easy question.
Yeah, it's not an easy question.
Because
my sister's probably like, she's shit at this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'll give it like for myself, I took up jiu-jitsu, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to at least try to get to a blue belt, and then we'll see from there. And I gave up around probably less than 100 hours. But I just, like we were talking before, I just realized that like it got to the point where I was forcing myself to go to the class, and I didn't really want to.
Yeah.
And then that's something I've given up. Other things like I love golf, I love hockey, and then I'll stick to those.
I was really bad at hockey. My friend played for Australia in high school. And
ice hockey.
Oh, really? Oh, ice hockey? No, it was just normal grass hockey. I sucked at that.
There we go. We got one.
There you go.
Okay, let's jump ahead a little bit, because there's so many hats that you are wearing, and to connect them all, it's maybe, is it a puzzle? Is it a Rubik's Cube? I don't know. Let's find out. But
Probably both.
Probably. What was the next step after the electrician? Where did you go from there next?
After being an electrician, that's when I went into running my own business, and that was up in Cairns.
What age are you at?
I think I was about 23.
23?
So it was when the last wave of like the whole world went down into doomsday. So everybody in Australia lost their jobs, and I kind of became a qualified electrician at that same sort of time.
Is that 2008 then with the crash?
Yeah, maybe about 2008, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I started in 2003, something like that.
Yeah.
So I applied for like over 2,000 jobs, and at most interviews that I got, I was still laughed at just because I was a female, you know, rocking up to these jobs. So I just remember thinking, okay, well, let's fix that, and I'll just become my own boss. So I ended up doing an extra business degree so that I could actually get my contractor's license and just start running my own jobs up in Cairns. I had one builder. I had, I guess, a real estate agent where I looked after a heap of restaurants and just kind of built it from there. So I was up in Cairns for a few years doing that, and then went down into Brizzy, continued to be an electrician, and then got into thermography. So ended up doing that as well. So electricity is frequency, frequency is vibration, vibration is heat. So just like a heat seeking camera. And that was honestly, I'd probably end up going back to that because it was, I really enjoyed that stuff.
So at this age now you're back on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, back on the Gold
Coast.
Coast.
Now is this how long are you in Cairns for?
I think I was like 25 maybe when that happened.
25, okay.
So spent 2 years in Brisbane, was still being a thermographer, and then LFL came along.
No, but just before that LFL, What were your hobbies at that point? So you're the
Work.
electrician by day. What were you doing at night? Were you in the gym? Were you playing sports?
Yeah, I was like a podium dancer and like a Coyote ugly dancer. So I did that up in Cairns.
Now is this, it's like, there's classes for that, or you're being paid to do that?
You're being paid to do it. Well, I was. And then when I was in the Gold Coast, I was at the #1 nightclub where we had like Ministry of Sound DJs.
Okay.
So I was a podium dancer for them as well. And then I transitioned into the lighting and technician. So I was behind the DJs and more like helping to create like the atmosphere and getting to more read like their DJ sets and then just, you know, creating everything that was the club. I love that.
Do you consider yourself artistic in that sense then? Like for me, I can't. If you told me to draw a person, I couldn't even draw a stick.
I can't draw. I'm not a drawer. But I guess lighting and sound, and then just being able to read people's energy and, you know, I guess listening to a beat. And then, I don't know, I would always just pick sort of one sort of crowd. Like, I'm sure everyone in this position knows, but you kind of scan and I'm like, and there is my muse. And I would just go off kind of their feeling because they'd be like, oh, fucking pumped. And you'd see them going like, yeah. And you'd be like, excellent. Okay. G'ing people up with the lights.
No, you're just doing the lighting. You're not doing the DJing. Right?
No, I wasn't a DJ. I was DJs there. I'm in the same booth and I was behind them just doing like all the visuals and all the lights, like that extra part.
Yeah. I mean, again, these are even more hats. I'm sure it seems like every other year you're putting another hat on.
I just really, if I really want to do something, I don't know.
Just go for it.
Just go for it. But outside of that, honestly, I'm just a workaholic. So when I was an electrician, I would take any extra hours and just be working. And then I guess my hobbies was just being a normal girl, going and getting my nails done and facials and I guess like that normal self-love and going to the gym and just always staying active. In my last few years as an electrician, I actually had a coach who I was like learning to do strength and conditioning with. And now looking back, it was the perfect years that I had with him. Ezra Taylor from Brisbane. He was like played for the Reds. So he was a union player. And he really got me ready for what ended up being me leading into LFL. So even though I was just doing it as a passion and something outside of work to give me that balance, I was still like, train me like an athlete.
Before that LFL, did you know anything about American football at that point? Or was
no,
it
and
no
to
idea
be honest,
about the rules? But
no.
was there a rugby connection?
I played rugby all through school and then outside of high school as well.
Okay.
So yeah, in high school I was captain of the forwards and then
You were playing union or league?
Union. Chicks weren't allowed to play league in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why was that?
I have no idea. Something about like our like scrums and there was like I just remember there was a huge big raw like with women playing that sort of football. And I remember in rugby union we weren't allowed to have contested scrum. So we would like pack the scrum and there was to be no sort of shoving. Like it was
are you a union fan or a league fan more?
I love all football, honestly. I grew up on football. I'm Australian Maori. There's, you know. Yeah,
that's kind of the thing. But yeah, because AFL is more south, like that's Melbourne. Yeah. Up Queensland is all rugby.
We're all rugby.
So you were getting into the football side of things, and let's connect that to the LFL and how this all came about.
It really came about because one of my girlfriends I was living with, Cody House. Her and her fella, they went down to these tryouts for LFL and she'd made the squad and they were looking for extras to be tackling and maybe a running back I think they were looking for.
The tryouts were in Australia or
Brisbane.
In Brisbane?
They were in Brisbane.
To try to bring you over to the US, right?
No, this was for the first inaugural season for Australia.
Oh, okay.
So they'd already established leagues in America and that's where they were playing on MTV and then they were doing the first like season like after their first exhibition match that they had done, I think the previous year, then they did the first one on Channel 7. We got to play in all like the big stadiums. So yeah, that's what really ended up happening with them. After my first season playing for the Queensland Brigade, that was when I'd made the decision that I was like, okay, I really love this. I really, I want to give it a go. I want to learn. I want to have that experience. And then that's when I started to be scouted by the American teams after that first Australian season.
Okay. And if people aren't aware, and I'm sure because this podcast is quite diverse, so we get a lot of different viewers.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about the LFL? What does it stand for? What is it? And now I believe they have a new name. It's like X Extreme or something.
It's always changing.
So,
okay, so
just explain what it is.
It originally started as a halftime show for the Super Bowl, where it was called the Lingerie Football League. When I played it, it had stemmed into being the Legends Football League,
That's what I read,
that's when it had gone more into like the sporting attire. So it originated with that, where it was like a heap of Playboy bunnies, like movie stars, you name it, models, and it, they had the lace up, and it was this halftime show in between the Super Bowl. So obviously it was a huge kick. Then from there, they made it into an MTV series with the American seasons, and then it eventually went into being called Legends Football League. Him trying to
clean it up a bit,
a little bit, make it a little bit more serious. And that's kind of where he went from there. Then he brought it over to Australia. From Australia, we were still Legends Football League. I played those seasons, for Legends Football League, and I think now it's called X League.
I saw X Extreme or something.
X Extreme. Yeah. I've got a lot of positive stuff that happened through that league, and obviously, like for anyone, I'm sure there's going to be like a League of Their Own movie made about like the LFL, where all these like horror stories, but this true sisterhood like kind of comes out.
A League of that's with Tom Hanks and Gina Davis.
Yeah.
Who's gonna play Tom Hanks?
No, you can't beat that.
Yeah, no, that's a great.
Can't beat that.
That's early '90s, I think.
Yeah, that was a bomb movie.
So you've been scouted by the LFL, and now you're making the move over to the USA.
Yeah.
But you're also saying that your sister was living in the US.
At that stage, my sister had moved back when she was, I think, 20 or 18. So that was back in my hometown still. So my sister actually came back to Australia while I was going through my apprenticeship. And then once again, I just continued to look after her. And then eventually, obviously, I made the move to Cairns, where I run my electrical contracting business. My sister continued to stay back there. She started her making her family, having babies. And that's when, I just continued
on your gypsy journey. And
journey.
again, those are your words. So I
didn't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, those are because I remember you were talking about that. I was listening to a podcast, and you said, "Yeah, I'm basically a gypsy."
It's your sister Tani.
Yeah, Tani.
Yeah, she is live with us.
Hey.
She's the only one live. So if you can say a hi to her, like.
Well, she needs to comment. Tell us what she's not good at. We're still waiting. Yeah.
What can we ask her, Tani?
Yeah, that's funny.
So you're again, thanks for joining our one viewer. But
at least I've got one fan.
It's gonna take a while. We're growing slowly.
My other fan is probably asleep in America. Leanne, love you, Leanne too.
I'll get into that too. I want to see if you get stalker fans as well, which I'm 100%. Sure in this. Especially in the LFL, I'm sure a lot of the women get stalker fans. But before we touch on that, now you've made the journey. You've moved over to the U.S. Where did you land, and which team were you recruited by first?
I was recruited by either Omaha, Atlanta, and Las Vegas. So I chose Las Vegas because of Extreme Couture. I loved the MMA gym there. When I was in Australia, we weren't allowed to do contact for drills, and I just thought that was ridiculous. I also wanted to do boxing style because I was a linebacker for fast hands and good reaction, as well as wrestling for like that tackling.
Takedown,
yeah, for takedowns and tackling. I was actually one of the smallest girls in the league, but I was still had a form tackle from rugby union, and then I just used those small techniques that I started to learn just to use, I guess, their momentum into helping to take them down.
So you decided to go to Vegas because of Extreme Couture, which is 100%. Randy Couture's gym.
Yeah, Randy Couture's gym. I loved all of the coaches there. Gil Guado, he's still someone who I'll contact if, during which is now my MMA phase of life. He's still a coach that I can go back to, and there's so many solids that I have from my Las Vegas, my time there.
Is Randy, is he in the gym, or is it kind of just the brand behind
No,
it?
honestly, he's still in the gym. He would still run classes once in a blue moon, and he'd still be in there training as well.
Yeah. And did you connect with him at all, or is he kind of keeping his distance from everybody?
I'd talk to him when he's in the gym. I wasn't going and having coffee with him. I was one of the Yeah,
Is it
LFL girls.
is it a big gym like Tiger, or is it larger than that?
See, Tiger's more outside, you know. I think Tiger is definitely larger, but Extreme Couture has like a wall dividing from where the MMA cages are and where the pros are, and like the little recovery ice bath little section is. And then obviously on the other opposing side, they've got all the wall bag walls and like all the strength and conditioning as well. It's a beautiful setup. Extreme.
And you decided at this point you're going into the LFL, but you're also training MMA. You're kind of doing them simultaneously.
Yeah.
And with the intention to get into MMA, or was it kind of just a hobby?
It was more just because I loved like the boxing aspect and
just to learn your hands.
Yeah, just to like get fast hands and be able to have like, I guess, that aggression. Looking back when LFL started to like go down the drain for me, and I started to close that off.
What do you mean by that? Go down the drain?
They just started to, things just started to become ridiculous. They just started to control the girls. There was always like fat, like you had to send in photos every week.
They were trying to like almost like a model, like they're trying to keep your weight down.
Of course, which is fine, and that's a part of it, and you know that signing up. But eventually, when they start taking your game time away, and you're sacrificing everything to play and not being paid, remember?
There's no pay in the league.
So there's no pay. No.
Wow.
No.
But are they really making money at this point?
Well, he seems to be making money because would always be getting to see, I guess, the fruits of
his labor, yeah.
Yeah. So we were always seeing that, but at the same time, like we were all doing it, and for me, I remember doing it just like as being an electrician, like we were doing it so that girls behind us wouldn't have to have jobs and wouldn't have to be doing the running around and the things that we were doing. A lot of us really believed that we were building a league for women.
For the future.
And for the future. It took me maybe 4 seasons to just look around and think. I was like, we've heard these lines every year.
Yeah, but why did you take it on? Like, what was your agenda or your motivation to play in this league with no pay? Maybe what else are you doing to kind of make ends meet?
Well, I'd saved a lot of money being an electrician who had no life.
But Vegas isn't a cheap place to live.
No, it wasn't, and I was really blessed to be able to be living with my quarterback's family.
Okay.
My journey through America was pretty crazy. I would be sleeping on coaches' like couches in their basements with my quarterback's family. At one stage, I was living at the gyms, like Cheers Majiro's gym, ATT, under Jakau. He pulled me out of the car once and let me sleep in the gym. Like, it's not, everyone sees like this glitz and glamour, but for a lot of parts, like there's a lot of sacrifice, and like there's a lot of days where you think, is this worth it? Mm-hmm. And of course, when you have like this feeling inside, even if for wherever it's going to take me, this journey now with fighting, for wherever it's going to take me, it's brought me more into like a present moment for myself. And I think like, of course, that makes everything worth it.
I was going to give a sentence, and I want to make sure my brain can process this.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on you shouldn't be trying to mold yourself. Sorry, one sec. You're not trying to mold yourself of what you want to be, like your surroundings. They're not molding you of what you want to be. But wait, what? You said it again. Sorry. We'll cut there and we'll come back. You are, what was it again?
A product of your environment?
No. It was something else. Anyways, we'll cut and I'll get this right. But it was like, it's something like you're not molding yourself from your environment, but you are what you are, or you attract what you are.
Yeah, you always attract what you are.
This is where I'm gonna have a brain fumble. Yeah, you're saying you attract what you are, and you're not attracting what you want, because you are a product of your environment. So.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
For me, I've always understood that you know, if a flower doesn't flourish in a room, like is it the flower's fault? That no, every flower is meant to bloom, so it's just an environment. My favorite biologist, Bruce Lipton, is huge on talking about the environment, like, you know, affecting the cells, and that like we really are just a cell. So I like to always make sure, and I've done this forever, obviously didn't have the best upbringing, so I would look to a different environment. I always made sure I wasn't like the smartest person in the room. I like to be in rooms where people were either mechanically like minded or in a different intelligence. Like I really enjoy making sure that I've always been in a room where I was like, good, this is who because I know who I am. Like deep down, I know who I am and I know where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And although I never thought that it would come to being the all-star defense, like best tackler in the world, or getting to model in America, or getting to be in magazine, I didn't set out to go, that's my plan. But those things came because of that's who I am, you know.
And then you kind of just roll with the punches.
And I just flow with it. So I think I always have goals and I'm always working towards something. But I also know that certain things are like, and I'm like, oh.
And it sticks to you. And
let's do it. Excellent. Thank you, universe. You know, like maybe that's my gypsy airhead side, or that's my lucky side, you know. But I guess.
So are you spiritual? Do you believe in astrology, things like this?
I think I believe in everything. Like I think I'm so science-based that I can't, there's certain things where I can have tears down my face being like, why is this happening? This is weird. Like, it's ghost real. I don't know. Like, but to me, energy is real, and there's something in the intangible, and that you can't describe that to someone where you're like, can you feel that? And they're like, what? And you're like, okay, whatever. But if I always followed those feelings, whether it's towards a person or a gym or like going and moving to America, or just committing and being like, I'm leaving my hometown and I'm going to Cairns. I didn't think I was going to run my own electrical contracting business, you know, but it took that move to go there, lose 2,000 jobs. And then I was like, just working out a way, like figuring out the puzzle, and then boom. Oh,
are you very analytical before making a decision or a leap, or do you kind of get a gut feeling and go with it?
I think I have a gut feeling. I have to process a lot. So I have to I have to have as much information as well. But I also know that, there's been plane rides where I've just sat there. Like, I think I was meant to go out to the mines up in Mount Isa, or it was somewhere up north. And that's when I was like, I got to get off this plane. I got to get off this plane right now. And then I did that in Brisbane. And then I stayed in Brisbane for whatever reason. And, you know, then from there I became a thermographer and got into the LFL. If I never got off that plane, I'd probably still be in the mines.
You're en route to the mines. So maybe that's something I don't want to say failed at, but at least realized quick and gave up on it because it didn't feel right.
There you go.
Yeah, there's the answer. We got it.
So what's that? Commitment issues?
Yeah,
No, but you
that's,
get me? No.
You had the gut feeling that it wasn't right. And
it wasn't right.
You made the right decision, right?
Yeah. In the end, even if you think it's wrong, it's always right. Like you're never actually doing anything wrong. It's just leading you. As long as you're being true to yourself, you know, like being true to yourself, it's never leading you astray. It's never leading you off a path. Even when things are just like, holy moly, everything's on fire, like it's okay.
But have you ever made any major life decisions that you do regret?
I can't.
20 of Barbara Walters here.
No, that would just be like, I don't know. Everything happens for a reason, and for whatever reason.
Well, I don't mean so much that you regret, because again, even if it was a bad or negative experience, it still built your character. But do you have any negative experiences for something, and maybe it just didn't go right and it wasn't the right decision, but it still built your character, so it's not a regret?
Career-wise?
Anything. Relationship, career, it could be...
Even all the relationships that are bad.
Buying
eventually...
a Magnum ice cream at the 7-Eleven that you wish you didn't.
No, I always love eating the white Magnum ice creams. Yeah. Even, I guess, maybe being separated from my sister at a younger age, I feel like maybe I could have had a different influence, you know, through those teenage years. But I also understand that in psychology, those huge influential years are actually 0 to 5. So I know, like, as an adult, yeah, cool, I did a good job, because through those whole years I helped to implant, like, this is how you're a good human. Like, this is how you're not a good human. This is how you ride a bike. This is how you make toast, or I don't know.
But who taught you all that? Was that your adopted parents that you were living with? They kind of molded you?
I guess they helped mold me through my teenage adolescent years. So they, honestly, I wouldn't have had a good environment to be able to get through those years if it wasn't for them. And
you're still close with them?
I still talk with the boys. I still talk with Dave, and I still talk with Darlene. But yeah, obviously I don't go home because I'm always
On the go.
I'm always on the go, and I've always been on the go. I've never stopped like ever from running my business and then from modeling. Just I don't know. I think I just found so much more in that, and I didn't want to stop. There's something in me where I'm just like, no, the time is now.
Are you constantly on the go, constantly thinking of new ideas and what you can do next? Sometimes the term can be ADHD with OCD, constantly changing what you're completely obsessed about.
No, I think I stay pretty consistent in what I'm obsessed with. That's how like I became, everything I've kind of gotten into, I've become like the heightened, or the best version for me in doing that. So I know, I guess with LFL, stepping away from football, that was one thing that was, I think I cried more.
Was that your decision?
I think it was still my decision to step away.
And why?
Just because I didn't enjoy how they were making me feel. I didn't enjoy rocking up to training and having people tell me that I wasn't giving something 110%, when to me, I was waking up at 4:30 a.m. to ride my bike to the gym in the Las Vegas, like staying out of Las Vegas heat. And then I'd have teammates who were like out partying. Like, okay, I was in with girls and they're like, we're going to party with Justin Bieber. And I'm like, cool, we have like a semi-final championship game tomorrow, ladies. So I don't know, fuck Bieber. And they went to party with Bieber. And
who was telling you this? You weren't giving 110%. Is it the owners? Is it the coaches? Is it the players?
It came from owners, players, and coaches. So
what was their motivation to say that to you when you clearly were? Why would they say that?
I have no idea, but it definitely lit a firecracker up my ass. So, I think at the same time to me, I was like, oh, the level of disrespect, because that's not like what was happening. I can never understand why those girls needed to, I guess, push me out. But hey, if that's the pattern of women's jealousy, then that's the pattern of women's jealousy.
Maybe you were going so hard and they didn't want to match that.
Maybe, but like I said, like if I want to do something, I want to do that.
So when you made that decision to leave the LFL, was it overnight? Did you take a month, or how fast was that?
No, when I make those sorts of decisions, like everything's like sliding doors. Everything will happen within like that week.
Okay.
Usually, like everything I've sort of made, I'm like, okay, well, this is what we're doing. There's, I don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
If I've made the decision, why wait around for, this? It's like, let's go.
And I just want to jump back because I didn't clearly understand this part of the story where you're in the LFL. There's no pay, but
no pay.
I didn't understand your motivation to stay in it and your whole reason of getting into it.
It was because, so as a thermographer and even as an electrician, because I was just going hard for so long, and I love working hard, like I really do. There was, even in moments where I'm on a Sunday fixing a light and there's ants crawling over me, I remember just like laughing and crying, being like, maybe one day I'll miss this, maybe I'll miss where I was doing this crazy little life by myself up in Cairns.
Maybe you just wanted to try something new.
I guess just try something new, really. I guess just put that challenge on myself.
And through all this, I mean, you're quite busy and you're working hard. Are you able to maintain like relationships with partners? Okay, so
no, because of course I've had long-term boyfriends.
What's long-term?
Like a couple of years, of years. So I could maintain them, but also I was always wanting to like work, and I wanted to, be able to also do like go to the dancing or do modeling. And then outside of that, I wanted to spend time with them. I'm super like free range where I'm like, okay, like you're living, I'm living. Do my thing.
So it's kind of living, it's living separate lives essentially, but then, you
still coming back together, I think honestly, a lot of, for whatever reasons, like it didn't work out as it wasn't meant to. You can't stop like what you want to do, and I think for a lot of the times it was either them getting jealousy out of me going to the modeling shoots and like, or just even like with the football, they, I had the opportunity to go to America. That's going to make someone feel a certain type of way, and then that's also like a once in a lifetime experience. You get to go and be the best. Like you have an opportunity to go and learn.
Yeah, otherwise
be the best.
you can't go if you're more focused on the relationship.
Of
Do you see
course.
yourself at one day being able to settle down and have kids? Is this a plan?
I have no idea. I don't.
Too far into the future.
Well, that's not really just up to me. I guess that's just waiting for, I guess, a synchronistic moment for someone to, like, me want them to claim me and having that connection, I guess.
Do you vision that? Do you like?
One day, I honestly, yeah, of course. One day I would love that. I would love a partner in crime and to have an equal. And I think there's such a different power in having like that connection as a partner. I think you can completely elevate each other. And one thing I've found is when it's not the right partner, I feel that pull. Like I can literally feel that pull where I'm like, okay, so you didn't want me to go to a job that was then going to be a centerfold spread that then leads into other jobs. And, you know, so I can, if I feel that like tug where I'm like, you're becoming a ball and chain, let's like, come on, like, whatever you're going to do, let's be the best. If you're going to be like, I don't care what you do, but I also want them to be the best at it. And so maybe I have unrealistic expectations, or maybe people don't like that sort of motivation where they're like,
you are who
come
you
on.
are, right? So
yeah,
you
of
can't
course.
change.
I can't change that. So I'm also like, I'm not going to force a relationship because it won't work. And I can't change who I am. And I'm a lot, you know?
So any guys out there, this is her. This is what you're going to get.
This is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to waste your time. Like, if I'm into it, I'm into it. If I'm not, I'm not. Yeah, I've got a lot of energy and I'm going to stand my ground and have my own thoughts about things as well.
Which is fair.
Yeah, which is fair, right?
Okay, well, let's go on a lighter note. I think some of this information, it can be interesting to show to your fans because maybe you haven't talked about it in the past. I'm not sure. I've heard a lot of your podcasts, and that's what we're trying to do here. We try to give some extra insight to you and what you're about.
Yeah, of course. They're probably like, why is she single? And I'm like, because I am crazy. Bitches.
We found the answer. No. So on a lighter note, you're training at Extreme Couture.
Yeah.
And at which point, let's try to jump a little bit from training at Extreme Couture to coming to Thailand. Is there a big gap there that you need to piece together before you make that hop?
So I was in Extreme Couture because that's where I was more training for my LFL days. And then once LFL was over, I obviously couldn't just keep living with my quarterback's family because we're not playing football anymore. So I actually had a sponsor who was a building company sponsor, but they said that I had to live in the accommodation that was in Atlanta. So I left Vegas. Obviously that was my home for the few years that I was playing football. So I would still go back and cross train. One, because I wanted to see, like, I enjoy cross training. I think it's super important. You get exposed to, sometimes one coach can say something and then the next thing someone can say the exact same thing. And all of a sudden it's like, ding.
It clicks. Yeah.
And you're like, damn it. So I actually started my first MMA years up in with ATT under Douglas Lima, and that was also with Jakau. No,
American Top Team. No,
American Top Team. The main one is in Florida, but there was
what's it called? Coconut
that's the
Creek.
hub.
Coconut
yeah,
Creek.
That's the hub. But there's also franchises. So Douglas Lima had one, and then Jakau Rohan had the other. So
this is in Atlanta.
This is in Atlanta.
Atlanta, okay.
So in my American years, I was skipping between Atlanta and Las Vegas, mostly dependent on where I was going to be able to have somewhere to stay. And then obviously I had my gyms that I could train at. So I was really lucky that I was even able to go in and cross train the way that I was.
At this point, what was your agenda? You're training MMA. Was it for fun? Did you have plans to get into it professionally?
I didn't know if I'd go professional, but of course when you're going to do something, and I thought, hell, the women's era is so new and there's just different skills. So
and what year was this? Around when you're kind of getting into it,
I think 4 years, 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
4 years ago in Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay, and this you're kind of just training to maybe see what comes out of it.
Really, I think because of my loss with football, Eric Nixick at Extreme Couture, he really sat me down. He's like, I thought you were transitioning into this anyway, the way that you train. And that kind of even just hearing that was a huge thing. But the person who really got me to transition straight from MMA, from football LFL into MMA was Miesha Tate. So I was actually training at a strength and conditioning place, and it was beside Miesha. And I just remember thinking, I was like, yes, excellent competition, let's go. You know, like without
She's a beast.
Of course she is, but not really realizing overly like Miesha Tate, who's Miesha Tate. And this is when she had a 135-pound division UFC belt. Obviously from there we just sort of trained, and she got me into this like female development squad with Robert Follis. And then, you know, I would come and talk to her because obviously
were you guys close? Like,
yeah, we were close.
In and out, outside of the gym?
Outside the gym, she would hold barbecues, and she's obviously someone for females where you felt like she had a big sister vibe, and you could go, I could at the time like go and talk to her about certain things that were happening in LFL because like obviously we're all doing interviews, we're all doing like, we're all at the top of our game. So I was at the pinnacle and top of football for females, and being able to have someone of like who I saw as an equal, but someone obviously UFC is leagues above LFL, of course, you understand, but she's still someone that I could go and talk to about what was happening. So yeah, I was telling her like obviously the travesty that was kind of going down in my life as football, and then she invited me to the UFC in Brisbane. I think it was my first UFC. I was watching Mark Hunt, and she's like, "You want to come backstage?" I was like, "Yeah, awesome." So I get to watch some interviews, and we go and eat, and I just feel something. I'm like, "Righto, mate, what steak knives do you sell?" I'm like, "Get it out." And she goes, "I really think that you would find the love that you've had missing through this sport, and I really think, you know, you should do MMA." And that was when, you know, between there and then finally just not accepting how I was being treated by the league, and then having a sit down with Eric Nixick. It was Miesha doing the, you know, the planting, and then just having like this big brother sort of vibe going, fuck them, he's going to be the one like who's sitting front row when you're doing things, and you know, and you're like, yeah, this is what I need. And between that's when I really decided to get into MMA without thinking, okay, do I want to go pro straight away? No, fighting is not football, and there's a process.
So you really started to get into it about 4 years ago, where you're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And did you give yourself like a timeline of, okay, I need X amount of time before I jump into my first amateur?
To fight straight away.
And what is your skill set? Are you a grappler? Are you doing boxing? Are you doing Muay Thai? Is it jiu-jitsu? What's your specialty at that time? At
that time, it was more just like 1-2s and just tackling people. Yeah, that's kind of where I was really just stuck, getting people into the cage. And yeah, just honestly, it's a whirlwind. My first one was just ridiculous.
So you've had amateur fights.
Yeah, I've had 2 amateur MMA fights. And then I needed to get a strong visa. America denied my re-entry because I was on a B1, B2.
Yep.
And they wanted me to go and be on a P or an O type visa. So
for work-related
visas and whatever. I still had 3 years left on my entertainment visa, and even though I wasn't paid for anything, that still wasn't obviously good enough because
you can't use that visa for fighting, probably with licenses and whatnot.
Maybe not, but it was to me. I just thought, okay, at least it's amateur, but obviously it wasn't enough, so it didn't matter.
And how did those fights go? I checked your.
It was decision.
I couldn't find them.
The first one was a decision. What is it when they like
split
equal
decision?
Or whatever? A split decision.
Or a draw?
Oh no, it was a draw, and I lost 2 points because in Georgia you can't ground and pound, and
so you lost by point. It's a draw, and then you lose by
points. I also tore my ACL in like the first round, so by the third round, I do remember just being on the ground, and I was like, I can't move my legs. What's going on?
This scar here?
Yeah, that's
the
scar.
ACL, right?
That's the ACL in that one. Yeah, I just remember thinking, what the hell? And just like started punching her in the face, and they pulled me up, and I was like, what? And I'm like, oh no. So I lost it for myself in that one. Then my second fight, that was a loss. I went in with a broken nose. I'd had my nose broken twice.
In
training. And then in the second round, she finally got me in the face, and it just sat me back. It was a good fight though. I definitely got to say that. That was a good time, but
so now I
probably won't go into a fight ever again with a broken nose.
Because I mean, like I don't know if you've ever seen this. What is it? The Robbie Lawler fight with. I don't want to say.
I have a question here that is related to what you're saying. Like Tani asked a question.
Oh, that's your sister, yeah?
Yeah, your sister, and she's asking here, how many surgeries have you had, and any advice or recovery, etc.
Okay. I've had 2 ACLs. So I had one through my football season, which was a break in between going over to America when I was scouted for the leagues, and then I had one just after my first MMA fight. One thing I can say is it's such a slow process. And at the time I remember thinking my life is over. It's never going to happen. But to be honest, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, especially after the first one and people literally telling me you'll never be anything in football again. And then I every day just went to training.
What was the recovery like 1 year before you could really get back going?
Okay, it was meant to be 12 months and I smashed that back within, I want to thank Dr. Saul Geffen and Rehab Plus Fitness. I was back on the field ready within 5 to 6 months.
Was that purely from the rehab, like doing the physio?
Being physio, being looked after by the doctors.
But were you dedicated to the because physio is the most boring thing in the world.
It is. It's super boring. And then at the same time, just being creative in being able to just continue to change exercises where you could still do stuff. Getting on the bike once I could get on the bike and understanding there was all these limits and not allowing those limits to stop me from building myself into an elite athlete so that once the ball was running, I could fly straight over to America and get into it. I don't think people ever talk about like just the emotional response that kind of happens from any sort of major injury, even just lying there in bed where you can't just go to the toilet, you can't get up. And yeah, you've got all these thoughts of, am I going to do this again? Is it going to be worth it? And I do remember in the first one, and I feel like I just completely hexed myself. I remember thinking, I will never do this again. Like if this happens to me again, that's it. It's over. I'm never doing sport.
So this one was from the LFL.
This one was from the LFL.
Yeah.
And then, this
one's
one
from MMA.
MMA.
During the fight.
Well, it was probably obviously a bit injured from going in. There's no way your ACL can just snap that like that. But for anyone that does MMA, everyone's got limbs half hanging off them. That's just a normal day in the office.
Yeah, it's not a sport.
Pain tolerance is a must.
It's not a sport you would, I wouldn't recommend to people going into it because and it's also very dangerous, especially with the CTE. Does this scare you?
It used to, but at the same time, I think I'm also super scared of not living.
Did you have any head trauma in the LFL or any major hits?
I had one major hit and I remember completely we've got the footage. I lit the quarterback up and then from there I completely blacked out and didn't come to. I got back into my position and everyone was like, yeah, cheering and banging my head. And I just remember thinking, I was like, stop touching me. And not realizing until outside of the game when I would be trying to talk and I would start to stutter or just
was
small
it a concussion?
Things. It was a super concussion. We're wearing ice hockey helmets. So that was our uniform. Ice hockey helmets, either on an indoor field where most of the time we were playing on turf, rolled out on concrete. So we were legit.
They don't even have the rubber for
nothing.
Oh my God.
So that's what we were playing on. So when people a lot of people oh, is it fake? I'm like, no, it is not fake. That's real.
Yeah, because they're doing it cheap. Put that rubber down is very expensive.
Super.
I mean, I play on a football field with some buddies over here, and I stopped playing because they just put AstroTurf on concrete. And after about an hour, the next day I can't feel my knees.
Yeah, you can't. And it's not good for you.
Yeah, and your ankles too. And it's
everything.
So...
I think, but it's funny because now in MMA, I could have a rolled ankle and not even have a clue because I played so many years on concrete that I'm like, wow, we have cushion. Yeah. This is amazing.
This is paradise now.
Yeah, you guys, you wouldn't make it one season in LFL, bitches. What the hell?
Does this concussion? What's the protocol after that type of injury in the LFL? Do you need to take 6 months off?
They don't do anything for us.
Nothing.
So I was actually meant to do. So this was all before COVID. HBO. It was with HBO. We were meant to be going to somewhere outside of Mexico or something like that, where we were going to be doing stem cell research, and they wanted to be getting athletes from different sorts of leagues, and either putting it in old injuries as well as putting it in with CTE. And I think that that was a major thing for me to go into those studies. I had a friend.
Did you take stem cells in your knee?
I think it was either stem cells or peptides.
Okay.
I was, like I said, I was super lucky. I had amazing doctors believe in me and believe that I would be crazy enough to put in the work. So, like, I've got a torn ACL and somehow I'm still getting to the gym at 4:30, 5:30 a.m. to do 3 a days.
And how would they do stem cells or recovery for CTE for the brain?
Well, I never got to do the research, so
Yeah,
but
that's
to me that I was like, yes, I will be a guinea pig because this is going to be for one. I feel it's a super preventative. For now, like when I got concussed the other week in MMA, I just completely went to ground. I just decided, okay, that's awesome. Like, let's deal with that. Upped my CBDs, obviously upped my waters, upped my mineral intake, and then just changed my training block to strength and conditioning and grappling. So for me, like, I'm now understand from my football years, like that is like how serious it is. And obviously, you know, one day I'm going to have family members. I don't want to be putting that on them because I lived this crazy, extravagant, like sporting life. And then in the end, they're wheeling me around in a wheelchair, you know?
There's
like,
got to be a cutoff
then,
point.
yeah, of course.
And
there
do you
needs to
have
be a
that
cutoff to
cutoff
stay
point for yourself? Like a I don't know, a fail safe, or like where you would say, okay, if this happens to me, I'm done.
I think that for everyone, I think that like cutoff line is going to be different for everyone. And I think there's something that just comes inside of you. I think if I'm going to training and I don't have that feeling, then I know that it's,
you still have that excitement. You get up in the morning and you want to go to the gym. You want to train.
See, for me, okay, when I knew that I was quitting LFL, we were going out. We were like, had all the cameras like in our face. We've got all the lights. We're just about to go out and do our little like entry, you know, whoop.
Yeah.
And I remember smashing this flag. And then all of a sudden I looked at my friend and we're like, yeah. Lily looks back at me and I've just gone. And it was literally like this hand just went, whoop.
You're done.
Pulled something, like I felt it just pull out, and I knew in that moment. She looked at me and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, I feel like, you know, when your imaginary friends just all of a sudden they disappear and you're like, oh, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, you just want to, well,
I don't want to play imaginary
not
anymore.
There, right?
Yeah, the passion was gone.
Yeah.
So I think one day, if that's what happens for me now, I had a really good coach, John Beesing from GATA, and he's always like, obviously in MMA, had different, whether it was a financial like change or I've annoyed someone or like moving from gym to gym because of like either travel accessibility or money. Obviously, usually for me, a big guide is like money, and where I can kind of just, to me, the hardest thing is just getting to the gym. Once I'm there, I can train my little heart out.
I can sit there, stare at my running shoes for 20 minutes.
No, mine's more like just literally like, hey, I either don't have money, I've got to ride a bike to get to the gym, or can someone pick me up? Outside of that, I'm fine. I'm good to go. But for me, there's different things challenging me and knowing how much do I really like fucking want this. And that's, for me, that's been my major thing. Like, how much do I really want this? For some reason, like I don't, like if a door closes, I'm just gonna go and wait for the next door to open. Because
you're gonna go train. You're gonna train tonight, right?
Yeah.
And do you ever get these days where you don't want to train, but you still know you have to go because it's part of that routine to be able to get to a certain level?
Of course, that's what requires discipline. For me, I more need someone to be able to put on the break. So I've now been able to like distinguish between when I should have a break, whether it is just like mentally, I just need, you know, that reset. And then the next day you're like, whoa, I'm way more efficient. I'm getting more out of this session. Wow. I just needed to take a Wednesday afternoon off and like heal or go recover and put some like different energy into my body of like loving myself to like go back to bashing myself the next day. But also, you also need to know like what's disciplinary to go. And yeah, I've never had that. Are you using any
like devices that like some people use Whoop or different tracking devices? Whoop, hey, we need which camera sponsor?
It turns your body into a robot. You can literally go, oh, I haven't slept enough. Oh, I can train this hard. It's your like lifeline coach. I think that's amazing.
Fitbit for sleep, and it works really well. Like some days I'll wake up tired, and then I'll look at it and I'll notice that like I guess I was up like for 2 hours in the night where I just wasn't in a deep sleep, and then you wake up tired.
It's sleep is like that tool that everyone like wants to buy pre-workouts and everything, and you're like, I would prefer to not buy a pre-workout and put more focus on having a good night's sleep.
Yeah,
and
the most important for recovery as well.
Of course, like even for me, I know if just say the AC breaks down and then I'm overheating, the next day I cannot do 2 sessions, or I cannot like get what I usually can just because my body hasn't recovered.
Yeah,
like I forgot my minerals or my electrolytes. You bet your bottom dollar by like that nighttime I'm gonna feel it.
Yeah, I mean, I think sleep is most important, and I don't know for you, but for me, I need about 8 hours. I would say 7 to 8. But if I get like 6, I'm a mess the next day. I need like 10 coffees to even get through the day.
Yeah.
And it's so strange. It's just that extra 45 minutes to an hour, and you think it's nothing, but
no, it is everything though.
Have you read any recent studies, or have you heard about the effects of psilocybin, and especially with the studies going on at Johns Hopkins? And actually the UFC and Dana White, they're actually heavily invested in these studies. Have you heard about this recently?
I actually didn't know any of that information, so that's something cool that I can look into. I have been looking into a lot of nootropics. Yep. So I guess I've more like obviously wanting to do the CTE and the stem cell thing with the HBO. Like I really, obviously after that, I really started to get into like more of that and look up a lot of the nutrients that we lack and require through those stages. Like if you've had a concussion for the first 6 weeks, you're lacking this. So I really started to get into like that sort of science of it.
What nootropics were you looking into?
It was Onnit's, of Onnit's brands.
The Alpha Brain?
Yeah. Well, not even just the Alpha Brain, but they had, oh man, I don't know the brand name of the other one. I think Usman or something like that.
Are you using it for recovery or focus? Because it's pretty much that stuff's focus.
All on it is?
Not all of on it. So you have Alpha Brain, and then other ones. There's one for like New Mood. That's more just for like stress relief and stress management. But like those ones, like anything nootropic related, it's not going to repair. It's more nootropic related stuff. It's more focused on focus. So now the definition of a nootropic at the end of the day, it's basically the medicine, let's say you're taking, or the pill you're taking. It's a bunch of different herbal medicines mixed into one.
Oh, okay.
So there's nothing pharmacological about it. That's why it's sold as a food. It's not sold as a drug. So any type of of our bottles, this will be a mushroom extract. You can't sell it as medicine, and you have to put that on the label by the FDA.
Oh, okay.
So when you're looking at things about Alpha Brain, and I probably shouldn't say this, it's sugar pills, and they charge a lot because they add. Now some things in it are good.
Yeah.
But what they'll try to throw in there sometimes is like lion's mane or reishi.
Yeah, that's a lot of the names that were on the list.
Right, but it's all mycelium on grain. Okay. And this is where it gets a little bit technical, but basically what they're doing is they're taking, they're growing the mushrooms in the U.S. because they want it to be U.S. grown. But they're not selling you the fruiting body of the mushroom. And that's why we call ourselves fruiting body, because what they'll do is they'll take a substrate, and sorry if it gets too technical, just tell me to shut up.
love this.
Okay,
Go.
so what they'll do is they'll take a substrate of brown rice flour. From that substrate of brown rice flour, they'll inoculate it with whatever mushroom you're trying to grow, lion's mane, reishi, whatever. Usually for this one, we'll call it oyster mushrooms or lion's mane. And with that brown rice flour, one of the first stages of the mushroom's development is mycelium, which essentially is just the fungus, the fuzz. Yeah. There's no mushrooms growing. So that mycelium network is now growing within the substrate and expanding, and it's moving towards the mushroom that is going to become the full fruiting body. To save money in the U.S., because mushrooms, they're very labor intensive. Therefore, when they grow, you can only hand-pick mushrooms. One grows this big, one grows that big. It's not like corn where you can just run a machine through the field.
Yeah.
So you have to grow it on these substrates in different warehouses in controlled environments. They cannot hand-pick it. The labor's too expensive. So what do? They just take that substrate of brown rice flour with the mycelium that's grown. That's why we call it mycelium en grain, MOG. And they blend it. So guess what you're taking? You're taking brown rice flour.
Yeah.
They haven't extracted the mycelium out of the substrate. And that's like how we differentiate ourselves. We actually grow the mushroom. We take the full fruiting body mushroom and you process it into powders, and you then do an extract ratio with that. So what that means is for our product, this one would be like I think a 10 or 12 to 1, which means I need 12 kilograms of mushroom powder to make 1 kilogram of my finished product. And they dilute it through alcohol and water extraction processes, and eventually using spray drying techniques to, again, concentrate it.
Yeah.
So that's where you're getting the quality from it.
Okay, I have a question. So my friends who I did my yoga retreat with and did the ayahuasca ceremony with, they own Me Diet Cafe in Vegas. Now, they got me into either it was smoking certain strands of weed for recovery, and then also microdosing.
Yeah.
So what is microdosing like compared to like doing for the brain and recovery?
Microdosing psilocybin, magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Microdosing magic mushrooms. There's no studies out there. There's no data because it hasn't been legalized. So that's what Johns Hopkins is doing now, and nobody knows.
Go Johns Hopkins.
They don't know. It could be bad for you. You could find out in 10 years, like, shit, you shouldn't be microdosing. Yeah. And to be honest, I can't answer that. What I think is happening is from the information and the data that we do have, and they've showed a brain on like a CAT scan of on mushrooms and off mushrooms.
Isn't there more activity though?
There's more activity, and it's reconnecting different neural pathways through a process called nerve growth factor. So it's connecting these neural pathways that is stimulating the brain. Now, is there going to be long-term side effects because like you've stimulated the brain and maybe over time now you don't stimulate it and it could have issues 10 years down the road?
Kind of like wearing glasses and then it like blows your vision more.
Nobody knows. So that's why they're doing these studies. And to be honest, I don't think you can have the answers for, it could be 20 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in 10, 20 years. For microdosing in particular, there's different strands like of marijuana.
Yeah, okay.
Some strands of mushrooms, like we call it the golden teacher, which is the classic psilocybin cubensis that you always see, the big one with the big golden cap. This one is more for mood and relaxation and calming.
Okay.
Then there's other ones like Pinellius sciencinus, which is also known as the blue meanie. This one's more for creativity. That one will take you to another planet. This is, if you take this one, it's very potent. So again, there's different strands of mushrooms for different purposes and what you're looking to achieve from it. However, at the end of the day, if you're microdosing and you feel anything, then you're not microdosing. You're on the verge of macrodosing.
Oh, okay.
Microdosing is, you should not feel anything. It's something that just dances in the back of the brain. So that's kind of how you have to learn to dose yourself.
So that's why it's just re-stimulating things.
It's
really.
re-stimulating things, but it's also connecting neurons in the brain that may have not connected with each other in maybe 10, 20 years.
Does that mean that we might be speeding something up that should be just an evolution of like,
again,
of its own like
we don't
battery?
know. We don't know. And then, I mean, there's no, it's not. It's more of a theory. They call it the stoned ape theory, and Rogan always talks about this, but I've read books about this for many years now. And that's one of the reasons why they say the human brain doubled in size was from magic mushrooms. And the reason for that is they're saying that because as the forests were being pulled back and the apes were coming, or that the monkeys are coming out of the forest, they're now foraging for food. And where do they go for the food? They see the cattle and they're lifting up the cow patties, trying to eat grubs. And then they see this mushroom. There's proven studies on that taking psilocybin improves visual acuity. I think this is the word, or acuteness. Yeah. So they've done studies on that where they've taken two groups, double-blinded placebo studies, and people are able to much more easily tell the difference in lines on different pictures because of that visual acuity. And then that could be attributed to, okay, did our ancestors, the apes, take those mushrooms? Did that improve, being able to prepare themselves in the wild from predators, being able to find food much easier, and so on and so on.
So this will make my jiu-jitsu better.
It's not a new study, but a new trend is happening in Muay Thai where people are microdosing and even like on the verge of macrodosing before fights.
Ooh.
Not enough.
My Māori mate did that, and man, what was it for? Maybe a glory fight, Bryce. And I remember going, "You dosed yourself out on shrooms," and I was like, "So how was the fight?" And he goes, "I was not there." And I thought,
then he probably took too much. He probably took too much. But I think if you microdosed it where you went in, but again, you should probably be doing it for a month.
Yes, getting used to it. Okay, so then what's the difference between, does that mean through my ayahuasca ceremonies, have I like catapulted my mind further along than it should? Because aren't they using just like shrooms and just like ayahuasca to help in healing, the healing process of the mind and the soul and the body? Does that mean they're also categorized like that as well?
Well, they're two different medicines, right? I mean, I don't know the science, but I've done an ayahuasca retreat as well. Okay, for me, this is the conspiracy theory side of it.
Ooh, yes.
So what I believe is, it's a bit crazy, but it's not my belief as well. It's I connected to this idea, so I'm probably regurgitating it from somewhere.
Of course.
But different things like the mushrooms. Actually, it's from Terence McKenna, and if anyone knows Terence McKenna, he's a very famous, not a mycologist, but an enthusiast or
enthusiast,
influencer of magic mushrooms. And what he theorizes, he says that if there were aliens, this is his theory. If there's aliens, they wouldn't be able to connect with us because maybe they're interdimensional, maybe we can't see them. But he said if they're going to talk to us and there was a language, they would speak through it through food. And he believes that if something out there that is larger than we understand needs to communicate with us, that communication tool might be through things like ayahuasca, DMT, medicinal mushrooms.
Yeah, of course.
And it's very interesting because, and again, I'm not really answering your question of what does ayahuasca do and how does that help you. To answer that question more in depth,
I was just more asking like with the brain.
Honestly, I couldn't answer that.
That's what they're trying to say, even with just shrooms. Then
it's bringing clarity and it's bringing answers, and it's scientifically it is connecting parts of your brain to give you that clarity, and you can come out of those trips, let's say, with all the clarity in the world, and you can write it down, you can journal it and say, okay, I saw the light, I know what I need to do. And it could be very simple things like don't eat Magnum ice creams 5 times a week anymore. But just simple things like this. And then you write that down and you realize what you need to do, and you're going to get that clarity from ayahuasca and medicinal mushrooms as well. But if you don't put that into action, nothing will happen.
Of course, but then also comes down to that person, like, is there true motivation and true intent to do that list they just wrote, or are they just doing that to give themselves a little band-aid of ease so then they can just go back into the little crutch?
Yeah, it is a band-aid, but it does give you the clarity. And what I find what psilocybin can do for you, it can help break through negative mind loops.
Yeah.
So you get it stuck into these, I don't know, like I was going to the gym for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden you don't go, and now you're stuck. It's like, okay, well, now I'm not going to the gym. I should be running. I'm not running. Okay, maybe I should call home once a week. I haven't been doing that. And that you can get stuck in, and time can fly by. 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Sometimes with psilocybin, you can take that and come out of that with clarity, and literally the next day, breakthrough. And I guess maybe it's therapeutic as well.
So maybe just, more therapeutic.
But everyone has their own interpretation of it. I also believe that it's not for everyone, just like I believe marijuana is not for everyone. Because some people are prone to schizophrenia, and if that runs in your family, and if you are prone to that, you should not be touching this stuff at all.
Of course, but that's because everyone has a different chemical makeup.
Exactly.
And different hormones in the brain. So that's just like why they say everyone has different poisons, like...
Yeah, and it
Same thing.
depends like how you will react to it. Like, for example, if I don't have ADHD, but I know friends that do have ADHD, and when they take their, I guess it was Ritalin.
Yeah, Ritalin.
Some people, like, if you have ADHD and you take Ritalin, you get calm. If you don't have ADHD and you take Ritalin, you shoot up.
I actually tried Ritalin, and that was the scariest drug, just because for my whole life, everyone's like, oh, you've got ADD, you've got ADD. And then someone's like, yo, you want to try this Ritalin? And I was like, oh, this could answer a lot of things.
But it's so dangerous.
Well, of course it's dangerous, and nobody go in and do that. I'm not telling you to go and do that. And that was naughty of me to do that as well. But I did something naughty, okay? So anyway, I got super, super high, and I was just like, this is the best. I was more high on the fact that I was like, sucked in everyone. I do not have ADD.
Yeah. Were you super focused?
Super focused. It was just more like super focused, chipmunky, like
and this
highly
stuff,
energized.
It's not natural. It's chemical.
Of course it's chemical. And you can feel that part of it as well, you know.
Yeah, it's quite
obviously
quite
it was a one-off.
Yeah. Okay, on a lighter note, that was our alien conspiracy, Terrence McKenna side note, which it's always fun. I can talk about that stuff for hours and hours and hours.
I was really lucky. So going into my ayahuasca ceremony, I'd just come off like a 200-hour registered yoga teacher training. So I did that before my first LFL season with the Las Vegas Sin, because I was coming off like surgery. So I wanted to re-strengthen my core, get flexibility as well as strength. So what better? I was going to do yoga anyway. Why not be accredited at the same time? So I got this. So many, there's so many different things when you're putting your body through that and cleansing your entire system with all the chakra systems and all your bandhas and then to go from that sort of cleansed state into doing an ayahuasca ceremony. I think it was like scheduled 2 or 3 months after.
Where did you do the ayahuasca?
I did mine in Vegas still. So mine wasn't, I would love to go to the Amazonian jungle. Of course, I think that Mother Nature it's trying to communicate. That's one thing I can say from when I was doing thermography. I would either like scan my hands and start realizing that our hands have a different vibration when you put the intent of like, just thinking of them. Your hands would raise like a temperature of 0.7 of degrees Celsius. That's a lot with intent of just focusing on your hands. So obviously your hands has a different frequency. But when I would look at the trees,
on the ayahuasca?
Not on the ayahuasca, with the thermography camera.
Okay.
Even then you can see that the trees, I know it sounds strange, but the trees are wanting to like reach out and communicate even with each other. And you can see all of that system, and it looks like just like the nervous system. Now the nervous system is there to communicate within our bodies. Yeah. So it's the same pattern. Like, so I think maybe doing,
And what was your takeaway from the ayahuasca?
For the ayahuasca.
Or before that, sorry, what was your intention? And everyone understands it's setting, and intention. What was your intention going into it?
Mine was always just wanting to know more within myself and making sure that I'm, doing all that I can and I'm representing and, just honoring the people that before me who brought me into this line of lineage, I guess. Yeah, that was when I was just leaving like LFL, and I was obviously worried because I'm New Zealand. So then you have the stigma with, are you a warrior? And, that sort of stuff. And I'm like, whoa, that's like, that's a big burden to kind of try and carry and like really represent, I guess, my people, that's like a lot. So I wanted to kind of know those things. And I always get the same messages, and it's always like, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right things. Of course, like just clarity in knowing that, I'm doing good and I'm exactly who I am. When I did do my ayahuasca ceremony, I actually floated to like, it was like an island. You
left your body.
I left my body. I completely left my body. I saw myself as like a tigress sort of energy. And I just saw myself as this badass warrior. And I, from that was clarity and going, oh, if that's me and my future self, then I'm already all those things. So why am I scared that I'm not those things when I'm actually already her?
Was that your takeaway from the experience?
For me, it was, that I'm just always on the right path and never be scared, even though I'm always worried I'm not a good enough person or I'm not doing enough. I just always get the clarification that, I'm doing good and I'm always doing good. There was a few people sort of
you are
freaking.
focused on that still, and is this your mandate now?
I think that's even with martial arts, and I've said to so many people before, I'm like, of course, for all of us, you want to see how far you can go and see where you can take yourself and see what level you can represent at. But at the same time, it's still that journey of self, and that's what you need to respect the most. And for me, that's what I try to respect the most.
And now you're on that path, and it seems, from my understanding, and again, I try not to talk to the guests too much before, so I can have my assumptions, and then we can take it in different directions. But I'm assuming your path now is you are focused on MMA and starting with the LFC. So we probably jumped a little bit ahead before connecting yourself to coming to Thailand, but why don't you start there and connect that and explain like how you got to Thailand, why you came here, connecting that to getting into the LFC because you are on their website as a prospect, and what are the next steps?
Okay, so as I left America to go get my visa, I had just been signed with LFC. So LFC was to go side by side as more an entertainment aspect while everyday training from, martial arts and fights. LFC is like an MMA sort of WWE lingerie fighting championship.
But it's full on, you're trying to take each other's heads off.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Full trying to take each other's heads off, but there's no punches to the face.
Oh, really?
No punches to the face. Moneymakers. And so I was meant to go home, get my O&P type visa, and then go back and be on a reality TV show with LFC. So that all happens. I end up getting a job. We'll call him Mr. Smith, where I was to go. We'll go kata hot yoga and help the healing process of him get clean. So that was just before that. I was also meant to be going with one of my Heart Math Foundation coaches.
Is this your story going into Bali? Because I listened a bit about that.
Bali?
You're supposed to go to Bali, and you
sent me Bali. Oh, it's Bali. Sorry. Accent.
Bali.
Bali. Yeah, that's better.
There we go.
So that's what leads me like into Bali. And for me, I thought, okay, awesome. I'm going to be apprenticing under Charlotte. Shout out to Charlotte. So she's a Heart Math Foundation coach. She's one of my like spiritual and mental guides, and someone who I check in with as well. Because I think we all have coaches for boxing and all this stuff, but for me, I need like my spiritual coaches and my mental coaches, as well as coaches that just I can check in with, and they've been like top level of NFL, and now they're getting kids into the combine. And
she's in Bali,
and so she was in Bali. I was going to be guest speaking, and
so the connection is you're supposed to go on this reality TV show. You're in the U.S., but you're trying to get the visa. And
so in the middle of doing all the visas, I thought,
you're in Bali at this stage.
I'm in Thailand at this stage. I go back to Australia. There's going to be a waiting period, everything. And I think
for the visa.
For the visas.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
As to which then I was offered a job where I would be helping someone in a healing process of getting clean from drinking.
Okay.
From there, I was meant to be going to Bali. So for me, I thought, awesome, I'm closer to Bali. It's 6 weeks. It was meant to be a 6-week time frame in between Thailand to Bali, as to which I would finish the meditation course with Charlotte, apprenticing under Charlotte in Bali, to then go back to Australia and finish the visa system to then go back to do the reality TV show for LFC.
What happened? Well, we all probably know what happened.
COVID happened.
Oh, wait, we try to say either the current situation or the C word. Because we don't. No, because it's funny. YouTube, they analyze all your dialogue, and when you use these words, they like shadow ban the videos.
What?
Like I tried to.
Let's not say anything.
I'll digress a little bit, and we'll jump back into the story. But like I tried to do some promotion stuff for a conversation that I had with some friends that were stuck in China, and like, there's nothing even bad on it. It just says like. Family trapped in Thailand, but I didn't use the C word or current situation, nothing. And when I try to promote it on YouTube, YouTube blocks it because they're picking up the dialogue through the, they must be like, because YouTube will automate our captions later. So they know everything we're saying right now.
Wow.
So when you use that, I have a feeling they like quickly grab that word and just like shadow ban. They won't do it to the account, but maybe to the video. It's not the end of the world. Okay. Anyways, we'll jump back into that. So you are now you're in Thailand. You're planning to get back to Australia. But sorry, you did go to Bali.
No, I didn't.
Because of the COVID.
I was literally at the...
After all the explanation.
You know what we'll do? We'll just beep it out. Okay.
That's a good beep.
Yeah.
So I'm at the airport. That's when, everything's just going...
That's Google listening. It just said
Oh my
something.
God, that was scary.
That was Google saying, anyway. Damn it, Google. All
Whoa.
right.
So that's what... You're gonna die.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay.
I don't know what it said. So I was talking bad about YouTube. Sorry, Google.
I love you, YouTube and Apple and all of you. I love you.
So you're at the airport.
At the airport, everything shuts down. Charlotte's already made it to Bali because she was going to get in there and just, start organizing hotels because we've got, a number of people coming to do the meditation healing course with us. And then, everything shuts down. I was meant to be getting paid, for my services.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now limited. I actually lost my job when I was meant to be healing, let's say, Mr. Smith, because my other friend who's actually a Playboy bunny from the Philippines was trapped in Phuket. So obviously I'm like, let's catch up. She loves whiskey.
Uh-oh.
What's my client love? Whiskey.
Oh, God.
So I lose my job to my Playboy bunny friend, which is fair enough.
They were hanging out.
Of course, and which is fair enough. I'm like, fair play. Maybe next year you'll have another crack. But for now, even I'm going to let this slide because it's a Playboy bunny. So the universe really tested him as to whether he needed to do one thing and another in the form of a Playboy bunny from the Philippines. So he's obviously... We know where that left him.
He gave up.
Of course. He was like, well, see you later. And I was like, that's fair play. I can't even hate on you, mate. So I don't get my job. So obviously he's like refusing to pay because he's like, no, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Peace be with you.
Yeah.
I'll fucking figure it out, mate. Whatever. So then I get stuck because everything shuts down. I have like limited money.
What time? What month? Year? This is 2020 March.
2019 December.
Right away.
Right away. Wow. So that was, that's right away. Like literally right away and this is through to the March, I think, where everything started to happen.
All the lockdown happened around March, April here.
Yeah. So I then have limited resources. I walked past this Muay Thai gym from where I was staying. Like from the original job.
Rawai?
In Rawai. Yeah. And I walk past this tin shed where they've, been training Muay Thai. And I go up to them and I'm like, because obviously I can't afford to go to Tiger or go to one of these other fancy places, which for me, okay, I've been Atlanta, I've been Las Vegas, I've been at the UFCPI, I've got to listen to all these like amazing martial artist stories, like shout out to every person who's ever given me their time and talked about their little journeys. But for most of the ones who are at that pinnacle of like in that sport, at least one time they mentioned Thailand. So for me, I always wanted to come to Thailand because obviously there's something on that journey that has pulled them there. And me now being here and everything's happening, I also got to have those aha moments during a fight at Bangla and then a fight against Dog Maipa where it was on like out, on Channel 3 or whatever. In those same moments, I was like, I understand why I also got caught here. So rewind back, I see this Muay Thai gym. It's the only one I can afford.
It's basically a hole in the wall.
It's just a hole in the wall. And I tell them, hey, I just lost my job. This has just happened. I don't know what else to do. I have to come and ask you. I've got to like put my tail between my legs, be completely humble and say, this is all the money I have. I'm meant to be, leaving. Please take everything and just teach me Muay Thai. I'm MMA. I'm coming from pro football. So I'm the best tackler.
Do you have any experience in Muay Thai at all? You've never thrown a kick?
Never.
Okay.
Ever. I'm just know that I was like football and Muay Thai. And that would make whatever this is now happening now. So I end up sleeping on just like a shitty mattress on the floor. At
the gym.
At the gym. eating like 1 egg, 1 cup of rice. So when people are like, oh, you're so prissy, I'm like, you have no idea the levels of shit that I will go through to make sure that I continue learning through all of that.
Did you do that because you had to do that, or did you want to put yourself through that?
I think a little of column A and B, but mostly, like I said, everything for me is directed through my own cash flow, and I wasn't getting my paycheck until I got to Bali.
Yeah, you had to budget it out.
So I had to budget it out, because then also for me, I'm like, I need to budget out for the next next few months. We can't just you can't just spend everything. And I probably learnt the best of that from obviously my childhood and upbringing, but also as an electrical contractor, there's times where, I had stacks in the bank, but I had 3 or 4 jobs that I needed to fit out. And then I needed to wait an extra few months before they paid. So you understand those cash flows of.
Yeah, it's hills and valleys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You just have to play it safe. You have to.
So you're training at this we'll call it this tin hole
shed.
in the wall tin shed Muay Thai thing, and this is again around now. It's probably getting into 2020, early 2020. What was your agenda? What was your plan from there? You're just gonna train, and what was the goal? Where did you see that headed to?
For me, I had one of my friends. She had a Bellator fight. Kat. She's German, and she had a Bellator fight. She was meant to be coming over in, I think, March or April. So I don't remember if it was just before my Bali trip. I think it was actually meant to be after the Bali meditation retreat. So I'd finish there, have my money, fly back, get to help her and train with her in her camp. And that didn't happen. So for me, I just thought, okay, this has all happened. This is what I have to deal with. I wanted to learn Muay Thai. I wanted to be in Thailand at one stage. It's happening in a completely, unfathomable way. So I was just like, let's just fucking do it. So I ended up staying with these guys, just all surrounded with Thais, living at this gym. And honestly, it was probably the best experience because for one, they had internet, but at that stage, they didn't know Tai Emery, the LFL girl. They didn't know Tai Emery, the model. They didn't know any of that. And I loved it. Like, I loved that.
Did they ever find it?
Eventually they found out and they were like, what the? And I was like, oh no.
They know who I am.
Oh no. Uh-oh. But before then I just explained, I'm like, I played football in America. I want to combine Muay Thai. I want to learn how to, I've just had, this ACL. I've, a few 6 months out from that, or 10 months out from that. So I want to learn how to dance violently, and that's Muay Thai. I want to learn balance and kicking and using all of my everything, because before that in America, I, had the damaged knee. So I just was like, okay, jiu-jitsu and boxing. So
at this point, you already had jiu-jitsu from these other. So but you weren't doing any Muay Thai in the US. You're pretty much doing the wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and boxing. You weren't even thinking about throwing kicks at this stage.
No, because I wanted to just get a base in that, and I never have felt like I'm kind of stocky. I feel like I'm not stocky, but for me, I'm very. I was a linebacker. For hell, I don't want to be kicking and putting my legs in the air like that to me. Okay, that was hard. Muay Thai was hard, has been super hard for me to learn to want to kick, because I just want to run in and
just start throwing fists and take you down.
That's what I wanted to do. So I end up, everything sort of happens. I end up living in this tin shed. But then the real lockdown happens. Yeah. The proper one where the streets and the cops were everywhere.
All the regions locked down.
So there's the original one where the flights were all stopped, and, that stopped the Bali retreat. And then the real one happened. And that's when I felt such a change in the community that I was in.
Everyone was helping each other. It was
not me. They weren't helping. There was a change towards the farang, and and whatever was happening from that, that's what was happening. By that stage, I'd had my 5th fight at Bangla in the stadium.
Oh, it was still going.
So that up until then, you get me. So not long after that, in one of them, that's when Jack from Powerhouse.
What happened to that tin shed? You had to kind of.
So I had to leave because to me,
what was
just because of how things were happening, and I was trapped in just one small little room, and for me, I'm like, I need to be at least able to leave this tiny little quarters. Like I can't even do yoga. I even stretch. I couldn't do anything. And like food was making more scarce, yet here I am like forking out the money that I had. And I just remembered Jack and Eddie from Powerhouse and them just giving me this courage in my last Bangalore fight. And I thought, you know what?
How did you connect with them there?
They were there.
In the area?
They were in the area. They were, at the stadium. That's when I met them. Yeah. And it was like I said, it was my 5th fight. I was a bit busted up. And I was like, is that normal for them to like make me fight this many? And they were like, and from the looks on their faces, I was just like, this is not normal. I was like, this is not good. They're just, and then you realize they're
trying to make money.
Of course, everything's about making money.
Yeah.
And that's why I had so much respect for Jack and Eddie. They were just like, okay, this is the scenario. You've just gotten the big call for the big leagues. Now you can see like what you're really made of. You're completely busted up. You wouldn't say no in that situation. Just gave me this hype where I was just like, doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
Boom, went out, won my little fight. I was like, yes. Elbowed her in the head. I was like, this feels amazing. Elbows are awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, when things started to go down, I just thought, look, if I want to be out, if things are going to get weird and we're going to be fighting people, like who knows what was going to happen. None of us knew how people were going to react. But in my head, obviously you can tell I'm a little bit in the, weird stuff, whatever. I just thought, I need those Australians and the people who are like, I need those people because
you need that support group behind you.
If we're going to be punching on with some people and we're fucking shooting people from the roof, like I need someone who's got my back and with, back against the wall together.
So at which point did you move over to Power? Which month are we in now?
I think now we're in March or April
2020. Okay.
And then through the whole initial COVID first, like all of that.
And you stayed with them?
I just stayed with them. And I thank them so much for, really teaching. Obviously the Thai gym taught me some like those basics and I sat for hours just kicking that, like trying to turn my hips over.
Yeah.
And so they helped me in that base. And then it was Jack and Eddie and Brooke and Tommy who really then had to put a lot of work into helping me.
And are you still there now?
No. Then I was given a sponsorship under my Phuket Fight Club, to which now my sponsorship has just ended with them as well.
Okay.
And I think I was with them for the sponsorship was 6 months.
Mm-hmm. What does that entail? Like, and I'm sure I'm even curious about that. What does that mean, sponsorship? Is it pretty much like free accommodation and training?
For me, it was just free training. Okay. I had already found my own like place on Soi Thai Ed, and considering like that was the first time I've just come off like concrete floor, and then I was living at Powerhouse for like nearly a year. And honestly, that's the best thing. That I really felt like that fast tracked my learning ability, like
from Powerhouse
and really living it. And I think I would love to live that close to a gym and be able to do that again. And maybe that's what I'll do like in the near future, just so I can put that refocus on.
So your sponsorship is coming to an end for Phuket Fight Club.
Yep.
How do we tie?
Now I'm a free agent.
You're a free agent. Okay, we're looking for sponsors here.
I'm looking for gyms.
Yeah, we're looking for gym sponsors. Maybe up in this area.
Up. Yeah, for sure. I would love to be able to continue to represent.
Well, now all the gyms are closed, right?
Of course, until. They say until next week. Right now, I'm still sponsored at Primal Fitness. So I've just, this all happened. So for me, I just went, okay, my focus now is rebuilding and doing what I've always done. Mm-hmm. So when I was in America, I was at a combine gym where we got guys out of college and we got them into the NFL. They also did off-season programs for the Major League Baseballers and the NFL guys, as well as all the college kids. So I was completely exposed to some amazing like workouts and information and knowledge when I was there. So for me right now, like everything closed, I just went, you know what? We adapt and we just continue because nothing.
Are you training people
nothing stops
as well, or just kind of?
No, I haven't had anyone want me to train them. So I'm just back to doing it and reading little scripts and doing it all.
At what point did the LFC reach out to you?
That was when I was still in America.
Really?
And so that's why I absolutely love them. I love that even through everyone, they've kept me on there knowing that I still want to fight for them. And there's like all these exciting projects that we can still do when, you know, world travel comes, if it does ever come back to normal. And even if not, I love that they just love to represent like the girls who are actually real fighters. Just like, I guess with our LFL, they've got some Playboy bunnies and, you know, they've got some models and whatever. Like
that's why no punching in the face.
Hence no punching in the face. But, you know, there's the diversity with that. But they actually have like a few fighters now, Kira Batara, Cindy Dandwas, I don't forget where she's from, but there's a couple of us who have legit fighters. Yeah. Well, one's fighting in PFL and one's about to fight Bellator. So, you know, she was also Combate America. So they've actually, like, they've got a few of us who are probably like that. Everyone's like, you're sexualizing yourself. And you're like, well, I'm a female and I love lingerie.
But it's also a start to that career. Maybe that can lead to PFL, maybe Bellator, maybe UFC. You have to start.
Course, so it's something, it's just something different. And it's a different exposure.
It's not a super small promotion. It's not like, there are a lot of people don't understand this. They just think, they don't even know MMA. They call it UFC.
Yeah, everyone says that. Oh, you're doing UFC.
You do UFC, and that's the thing. People don't realize that in the US, there's probably thousands of promotions.
There is
small cards, but at least with LFL, you can get a lot of eyes on you.
Yeah,
and if you do well, you can maybe get into another a step up promotion like a Bellator or a PFL.
As well as Invicta. I think for me, I would love to fight Invicta because it's an all female card. I think that's like major.
What about one? Just because you are here, could that be an option because it's so close to home?
Of course, if that's where I can work my like little career too while living over here, of course, who wouldn't want to be able to do that? That's the highest level of sport here. Also, Miesha is like involved with one, and obviously I have a soft spot with Miesha being
she could help get you a connection or a call.
Not even just the connection, but if I could make it into that without her doing the connection and being able to look at her and being like, yeah, you planted this seed and this is like, I got here. Like, thank you.
And is this the vision right now? Is this your agenda? And I know I've kind of repeated these words a few times throughout the podcast, but next step for Tai is let's focus on getting back into the LFL. From there, maybe we can go to another league, or do you scrap that and attempt to go straight for one? What is your vision? What do you see happening next?
Okay, right now, just because of where the world is, I would like to spend, the next few years still living in Thailand. I've been here since 2019. And the longer I'm here, the longer I'm realizing this is really where I want to be. And, this is where I really love it. I love my life here. I love the serenity and I love the martial arts journey. I love the Thai culture around martial arts and around Muay Thai. I think it's like a religion for them, and I love that sort of aspect of it all, So for me, I would really love to find a gym, and I'm over at Grapplers Academy now as well. A lot of guys, it's really about seeking people who are your same size at the moment, because bodies are like dropping like flies. Like people are all going back home.
Yeah, people are realizing it's getting a bit crazy.
Yeah, it's getting a bit crazy. Not many people are coming in. If they are coming in, they're holidayers. They're not martial artists or, people who are going and rolling. So right now I've just been more seeking I guess that
the right
sort of
training
journey.
Partners as well, which is important.
The right training partners, people my size.
And also with a certain skill level, because you're only as good as your competition, right?
Of course.
And you need that. You're not looking for, well, obviously it's not now, but you're the tourists that would come in and they train 1 month. You need a certain level of competition.
Of course, you need people above you. You need people your own level, and you need people also below your level, because all 3 grades are what help you, either get beat up, see where you're at, and also be able to try your moves out on those people, So, yeah, that's for me right now. It's finding somewhere I can learn my stand-up and my striking. I feel that's super important.
This is what you want to focus on.
And that's what we'll be focusing on. And then I guess from there we just continue training and wait for hardcore and super champ to open back up. I also have some cross training.
I heard they were actually coming down. Super champ was supposed to come down to Route Y.
Meant to.
And
then, so, but who knows? In my head, I've already crossed this year off as
just maybe fine tune your skill and keep pushing forward.
And then I just look back. Oh, well, that's what I did in my powerhouse year. And when I came out, I fought Dog Maipa, who's like number 2 in Muay Thai. I'm on my 5th Muay Thai fight at that point. should I have taken that fight? Probably not. It was a good fight, you know.
But it's a learning experience.
Of course,
it
was a learning experience, but also it showed that just by having that full focus, like you were ready for it, you know, because you just didn't stop. And so that's how I'm seeing the rest of this year. I'm seeing it as time to be in at the gym and rebuild my body and make sure like I might be less injury prone, and also just finding the right fit for me for the next few years to be able to stay here and you know, find that team. I'm looking for people who are like, yes, we've gelled with you. We are like, that's it. Let's go. So yeah, right now I'm looking for my a striking gym. Now that everything's sort of ended.
Well, we'll plug that. She's looking for a striking gym.
I'm looking for someone who wants to
bring
come
this
on.
Celebrity in there. She's great for the gym. It's great for
maybe just like full positivity. But I work hard, you know.
But what is I like to ask all guests this question: who truly is Tai Emery? What is your I don't want to say elevator pitch, but let's call it the escalator pitch. A bit long.
Escalator pitch?
Yes. Like who are you in a nutshell? That and again, who cares what people think about you? But how do you think of yourself?
I think deep down, I'm just like this dorky, nerdy, super obsessed, really serious, but really sarcastic and funny, like chill person who isn't sometimes chill.
Oh, you know, everyone can be complex.
Well, of course. Yeah, I see myself as like this comic book reading, like little nerdo who loves being like, love girly things.
And then go in.
And then, being super aggressive and also like, love a good party. So like, I guess I feel like I'm like this nerdy version of Catwoman where maybe I'm just like the bad girl who's not really the bad girl, who's also got like that hidden nerdy side.
We'll also take your head off. Yeah,
of course.
Okay. Well, on that note, we probably passed 2 hours for sure. This is your, it's not, anyways, I was going to say something, but it's stupid. Say the damn hot ones. Have you seen that show?
No.
Anyways, whatever. That's why I'm like, you're not going to get
You're like, it's not funny if I have to explain it, Ty.
Exactly. So this is your camera. I know you got a million things to plug. Plug whatever you want.
Honestly, I want to thank all the gyms that have ever been able to represent ATT, Octopus, Cabrini Jiu-Jitsu, Phuket Fight Club, Powerhouse, my sister Tani, Leanne for always feeding me. Thank you for letting me be the feral cat. Also my mouthguard sponsor.
Who's that? And these guys too.
And also Elite, because he will always like seriously be dropping in. I've got so many. Honestly, if you're someone who's like drops in and gives me some fucking motivation, like they have no idea how like far that goes, you know? Sometimes like this journey is super lone wolf, you know? So it's random at times when someone can just pop into your life and just be this like spark of fire and motivation. And I want to say thanks to all those people, whether they're a sponsor or not.
And where can everybody find you? What's probably would you
Easy.
say?
Find me on the Instagrams, just at TAI_EMERY. Yeah. Thank you, Elite. Thank you.
Awesome, and
you can
check out her. You can check out the link in your profile, and there's tons of stuff there. You can find more about her as well. I'd like to thank Tai Emery for coming on today. Again, we are Fruiting Body Podcast. We're representing Fruiting Body Mushrooms. Product will come out shortly. We'll let everyone know. It's amazing. It's awesome. So I'm not going to plug it too hard. It's awesome. And I think I never know how to wrap these things up. All right, that's good. We're out.
That was good.
That was really good, guys. Thank you.
Bitches get money.